Good morning! It's Mr. Harris's Maths, which means you're all here watching Mr. Harris do maths. Or you're here later, coming back in time to watch Mr. Harris do maths before, because you later on wanted to learn about what maths Mr. Harris had done back in earlier in the time. So you came back to watch the YouTube video after I'd finished doing the video to watch about equivalent fractions. So you're in the future. So you're time travelling back in time to watch me. I'm getting lost. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to my lesson today, all about equivalent fractions. I'm aware we've covered some of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today in previous lessons, but I wanted to make sure that I offered something that was going to give you something practical to do. There's worksheets to do at the end of it, and hopefully you'll find it useful. If not, well, it's something to do. It's something to get practice out, and it's all good revision. If not, well, if you do like what you see, if you do learn something, if you do find it interesting too, feel free to like and share, subscribe and share the channel. It's all useful stuff for different students. I'm going to get started imminently. So, I'm about to do a starter so I can say some good mornings to people. In order to do that, I'm going to give you your starter, but I'm well aware there's going to be people who are looking at this starter and going, oh, wait a minute. Mr. Harris, since when did this become an English lesson? And I will say, I'll explain later. Your starter is, which alternative words could Mr. Harris use to make his diary a little bit better written? So you can see in green all my Mr. Harris's diary. All you're going to do is come up with some better words or better sentences. Write your sentences in the live chat, or do the whole thing and write it all out. Up to you. You've got 45 seconds. I'm going to say some good morning. So, good morning to Vera, and good morning to Amber, and good morning to Eddie, and good morning to Alicia, and good morning to Leo, and good morning to Savannah, good morning to Eddie, good morning to, so many people. Good morning to Sharanya, good morning to Josh and Sophie, good morning to, good morning. Oh, I'm trying to say good morning to everyone. Good morning, Nathan. Good morning to. Thank you to those people saying about my bell. Good morning to Ella Austin. I think it's might have said this is your first live one. Good morning to. If anyone else I've missed, I do apologise. Good morning to Sharpies. Good morning to. Anyone else I've not mentioned? I've tried to get to everyone. Good morning, George Norton. Good morning, anyone else? So, Harriet as well. I missed Harriet. I do apologise. And Evelyn from Norfolk. Right. Did we come up with some better words? How is this maths? Well, it's secret. I'm basically a big believer that there's no such thing as maths lessons separate from English lessons, separate from geography. I think every subject overlaps. This is an English exercise. Synonyms mean alternative words, which is why I've explained it. But funnily enough, a synonym for synonym, another word for synonym, is equivalent. Another word for synonym is the word equivalent, which is what we're doing today. We're talking about equivalent fractions. Because if you said, for example, today I went for a pleasant walk in the park, so you're trying to change the red words, because good and nice aren't particularly good adjective words. Today I went for a pleasant walk in the path. The weather was really radiant and the atmosphere there was electric. I bought a really flavoursome ice cream which tasted delicious. My friend joined me later and we had a really spiffing time together. I don't think I'd ever say spiffing. A really wonderful time together. She brought with her a present for my birthday, which was really thoughtful of her. I had a really enjoyable day and I cannot wait to tell my parents what a pleasant time I have had. All of those are different words. They're equivalent words though. They mean the same thing as the words in red. They mean the same as good or nice. What I'm trying to show you is the word equivalent means the same. So the meaning is the same even though we use different things. I'm doing it to try and get you ready for when we're going to start talking about fractions. Because we're talking about equivalent fractions, and I try and drill this into people when I first start talking about it. Equivalent fractions are the same as each other. They are the same fraction. It is not like 7 and 9. 7 and 9 are not the same as each other. They're two different numbers. I could got 7 fingers, and that's different from having 9 fingers. Well, as a thumb, but whatever. However, if I have half of something, that is exactly the same as having 2/4 or 3/6. They are equivalent because they are the same meaning, just written slightly differently, and that's really important. So, with that in mind, I've got my common, a little hangover from our RNG lesson. If you missed that on Friday, you can learn a bit more about that. I've got my common fraction, my uncommon fraction, my rare, my epic, and my legendary. They're the same fraction. They're all a half. So I thought I'd use this to talk about how does Mr. Harris go about simplifying something like 36 over 72. Does Mr. Harris have a technique that he uses to help him? And I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do this, but I do think that, just get my title up for you so you can all fly over here. I do think that if I was to do 36 over 72, there are some sensible steps I can take. So the first step I would do, you've got two choices. You can either look for the highest common factor of 36 and 72, which I actually think they both divide by 36. That's in the 36 times table, and that's in the 36 times table. So you can do that method where you try and find the biggest times table they go into, and that is 1/36, and that's 2/36, which is why it's 1/2. That's one method of doing it, but it's not the only way. Another way to do it is start with halving. So we halve them both. 18 over 36. Halve them both. 9 over 18. I can't halve them and leave a whole number, so I don't halve it. Never leave decimals when you're finding equivalent fractions. I've tried halving. I'm now going to try dividing by 3. 3 and 6. Try dividing by 3 again. 1 and 2. So all I'm doing is divide by 2. Divide by 2. Divide by 3. But with equivalent fractions, I'm only allowed to do it if I do the same on the bottom as well. I have to match the top, otherwise it's not equivalent anymore. You've got to do the same as you do on the top as you do on the bottom, otherwise they're no longer the same. This means that 36 over 72 is the same fraction as a half. So you can see one way of doing it is to find the biggest number that goes into them both. The other way of doing it is to keep halving or dividing by any number, but as long as you do the same to both numbers. You can skip some as well if you want. For example, if I was doing 60 over 90, I might start by dividing by 30, just because I know that 30 goes into them. So I can see that they both divide by 30, so I'm going to go straight to 2/3. But I might have just decided to do tens. I don't have to halve it each time. I could divide them both by 10 first. So that's the divide by 10. And then I go, now let me try 3s. Notice how I can do it step by step, or I can go straight there, and you're not wrong to do it either way. They will both give you the same simplest form. Now when it says simplest form, it means it can't go any smaller. Both of those are the same number, 2/3 and 2/3, but they're the same fraction as 6/9, same fraction as 60 over 90. We're just making them simpler. That is what it means by putting it in its simplest form. So what that means for what we're doing today is, if I was to do that, you have already seen exactly how I would go about doing it. So when we're trying to find equivalent fractions and simpler fractions, we've already talked about this in various places. I did a lesson on ordering things with the primary lesson. That was all about you to compare two fractions, they have to have the same denominator. So that's one time we might need to simplify our fractions or rearrange them. The second thing we talked about is when we added fractions. We weren't allowed to add fractions unless they had the same denominator. So it's another time when we talk about it. So I figured it was a good idea to do a lesson just on the equivalent fraction section and talk about what's going on. Now, I'm assuming you can all hear me, and anyone has got any questions. We're going to move on to the next thing I was going to speak to you about. Now, this is when we're converting fractions. One fraction is being converted to another. So I've got a question mark in various different places. And you can see I've got some common. I've got some different fractions along the top. These are all the 1/3 fractions. But how would I go about doing this? And this is something I always do in the same way. So I'm going to scroll down, and I always am going to take on a question like this in the same way. And that is like this. 1/3 goes to something over 33. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an arrow there and an arrow there. I could do it in my head, but I always draw the arrows to give myself a stronger memory of the process in case my head fails me, or I'm having a headache, or I'm having a heavy day. I don't want to burden my brain, so I keep it all written down. I believe that's times 11, so I must do the same on the top. 3 times 11 makes 33, so 1 times 11, I can replace that question mark with an 11. Because all I've done is whatever I did to the bottom, I do the same to the top. They are the same fraction as each other. We can do some others. What would 1/4 go to if the bottom number is 32? I'm sure some people will put it in the chat, so I'll just leave it for a second, just to give you a chance. And what about 1/9 and to 108? Okay, so hopefully we can see here with the arrows 4 to 32, so that should have been times 8, therefore we got 8/32. That's why we did it, because it was whatever we do to the bottom we do to the top. Similarly here, 9s into 108. Oh, but Mr. Harris, I don't know my 9s up to that. But that's fine. We just calmly write 108 in a bus stop. Everything fits together. I've done a bus stop division lesson. If you struggle with that, go back and do the bus stop division lesson at some point. Maybe later. 9s into 1 do not go, pass the 1 forwards. 9 into 10 go 1 time, pass the 1 forwards. 9 into 18 go 2 times, so it must be 12. Because it must be times by 12 times by 12. So we're getting somewhere, but there is one more level of complexity I want to talk us through. So let's quickly jump back into the lesson and see what I'm talking about. What about when the number is different on the top? So it's not ones. You can see all my common and uncommon, all the ones on the top there are all 1/5. They're all equivalent to 1/5, but I've got 4/5 here. Well, actually, it's no different. It shouldn't be scary, because all that's going on here is we've got 4/5, and I can't for the life of me remember what fraction was that I was using in the other one. It was 4/5 over 35. 4/5 is something over 35. If we do the same method I've been talking the whole lesson on, of multiplying across the same numbers, that is times 7, so that is times 7. Nothing changes. We just then have to work out 4 7s is 28. So we have an equivalent fraction. Remember, equivalent just means the same as. And another word for equivalent would be synonym, if we're talking in English. So in English we talk about synonyms, in maths we talk about equivalent fractions. But they have this same idea, the things that have the same meaning as each other. 4/5 goes to 28 over 35. And we could go backwards by dividing by 7. We can just do a couple more that have got different ones. So 3/7 goes to something over 42. So here, 7 times 6 is 42. So that one must be 18. And I'll give you one for you to have a go at in the chat. 4/9 equals something over 36. I'll just see if there's any questions or messages for me. Peyton's been getting some answers in there. So Sophie and Josh doing some different answers. Hopefully this is making sense to people. Hoping people are understanding what's going on. So hopefully we realise it's times by 4. So that's times by 4. And lots of people have been putting in the chat 16. I'm not identifying any individuals. Just well done those people who are taking part, joining in with me. And you can see what's going on. The final thing that might happen is if, what about those times when I have the question mark on the bottom? Nothing changes. Just to reaffirm with you, when the question mark appears on the bottom, nothing changes. So 2/3 equals, I want the bottom number to be the question mark this time. And we're going to have 16. That and that, we start with arrows. That's times 8. Therefore, that's times 8. So 2 8s are 16. So 3 8s are 24. Let's see if I can do it without rubbing it out. Make it look nice and neat. Okay, so 2 16ths and 3 24ths. So we can do the same even when we've got a question mark on the bottom, and often it'll be like a blank like that, 45. So this and this. So find out what number you think goes in that blank space by working out what has 5 been times by to make 45. So therefore, what are we going to times the 11 by? And the answer will get probably in 8 to 10 seconds because you've got a bit of a lag, so you're only just hearing that question now, even though I'm aware that I'm speaking now, so that's now 8 seconds time. I'm struggling with time travel today. It's really affecting me. But well done, Sophie and Claire Blades. I'm guessing it's probably not Claire who's saying that answer, but whoever is saying the answer in the Blades household. Times by 9, 99. There we go. So we got 5 to 45 and 11 goes to 99. So we can hopefully see what Mr. Harris is getting at, that you don't always have to have the question mark in the right hand side even. You can even have them on the left hand side. As long as your arrows work, it can use divide and divide instead of times and times. So you can even have some which have fractions on the left hand side. In the description below the video, you will find equivalent fractions, not wactions, don't whack any of the fractions, equivalent fractions worksheet. Please click show more, click on the link, complete the worksheet, get your parents to take a photo and show me a photo of the work you're doing. The more photos I get, I'm starting to try and share the photos people have done of the work they've done before the next lesson, so that it's like a preview, like in the minutes coming up before. Show me the stuff you've been doing, and also, if you've just arrived, this is the first lesson of the day, Taskmaster this week, you've got to draw, make, or paint the best picture of Mr. Harris you can and send it to him. If I have a brilliant one, I might even make it my profile picture for the next week or so. That's how impressed by some of the work I've had from people. So if you're filling up for it, also, you are transition pupils, so I'm proposing you do the Corbett Maths 5 a day for Monday the 4th of May. Go to Corbett Maths, click on 5 a day and choose what you want. You could choose to do the primary stuff, but some of you are going to be good year 6s and year 5s, or some year 7s, 8s and 9s. Do the numeracy, or do the foundation, or you find the level that works for you. That's a bit hard. The ones where you get some bits right and some bits wrong, that's about the right level. It's okay to get things wrong. If you're getting things right every day, you're not learning anything. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but if I have students in my maths class getting everything right, I look at my teaching and go, I'm not teaching very well. Because I don't want you getting everything right. I obviously don't want you deliberately getting things wrong, but I don't want you getting everything right because it means I haven't stretched your imagination. I haven't pushed you to think. You should make mistakes along the way. You should get confused, because once you get confused, you can unpick the confusion and go, on that. If you're stuck on anything, please do comment in below the video. Ask me questions, send me emails. I always look forward to any interaction I have with you. I hope that you've learned something today. If you have, consider liking, consider subscribing, consider sharing. I have been Mr. Harris. You haven't. Next time I speak to you will be tomorrow. That'll be the last one for this week, because we're having a bit of a break for 3 days and don't know what's going to happen next week. I will let you all know at the weekend, but possibly by the end of this week I will be a dad, so we will find out a bit more then. I don't know the gender or anything like that. I will let you know when I know things. Thank you so much for joining me. I've been Mr. Harris. You haven't. Speak to you soon.